Good evening, everybody. Welcome to DNS Live. I know we've been running some reruns the last couple of weeks, and my apologies. We've been crazy busy on our end. But we are back live tonight. We've got a special guest. We've got Ben Hansen on with us tonight. So we're going to kind of fire away at him a couple of questions and see if we can kind of knock him loose here. Ben, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. How's the weather there where you are?
Oh, it was beautiful today. Man, I'm in Huntington Beach, California, and it was hovering right around 72, 73, just how I like it.
Yeah, now I see why you try to go out and go surfing.
How is it where you guys are?
You know, we've been it's Texas, first off, so you could wake up one day and it's summer, and the next day it could be winter. So here we've been having 40 and 50 degrees at night and 70 to 75 during the day. So it's been pretty nice for October.
Well, very good.
Yeah,
that's always good.
Super Bowl day, you know, where we had all the winter come in. That could come in at any time. Well, you know, I did all my background research on you and hit a couple of websites and got some information. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff about you I don't think people know or bother to read. So one of the things I had on here, you know, I did my homework. I'm a paralegal by trade, so, you know, I do my research. And I want to kind of read this to everybody that I found out about you today, because we know that you're the host of Fact or Faked. I got my shirt on for you tonight, but you can't see it. But we know that's what you do, but not everybody else realizes some of the other stuff. And it got me thinking today, you know, I've got some good questions to ask you based off of this. So one of the things is you're a licensed airplane pilot, an amateur radio operator, a licensed falconer, a certified scuba diver, a hang glider, search and rescue dog handler, an Eagle Scout, which I thought was kind of cool. And you graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology, certification in criminology and corrections, and a Spanish minor. Now, how much of all that do you use when you're going out investigating?
Well, you know, it's funny. On the TV show, actually being a licensed falconer came in handy, because we've used birds of prey not once but twice. The Spanish, I use that in my former career all the time. Currently, as well, it's very useful. Let's see, Eagle Scout. I've never had to build the fire with flint and steel yet. And there have not been any investigations where we've tried to devise some where I'm actually flying a plane, because I love doing that. But the insurance, the network does not like that. They won't let me do that.
They're kind of like, you know what, you can want it all you want, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So the actual flying the plane part, I do that when I have time, but it's an expensive hobby. I don't own a plane, so I have to go down and rent them, and
oh my gosh,
you know, they're like $120 an hour.
Yep. And then it's making sure you've got it scheduled for a time that's convenient too.
Exactly, and you know, Southern California is not. It's not like where I learned to fly. It's very, very busy here, and I'm not you know, extremely familiar with the airspace, and so it's kind of daunting.
So is it kind of like your driver's license? Like when you change states, you have to change your license, or is it pretty universal?
Thank goodness, no. And when I got my license, I don't even think they require it still, but there's no photo on it, you know. So
anybody could go around and be like, "Hey, I'm Ben Hansen."
Exactly. They could take my license as long as they got checked out with whatever instructor. You know, it's not like Enterprise though. There's not like places you go where you just like go get a plane. You have to have an established an account and everything with that flight school. So it's a little bit more regulated, but yeah, it's thank goodness you don't have to change the license every time.
That would be kind of funny. I mean, it wouldn't, but I think it kind of would be. Okay, I've got to change my driver's license, my pilot's license, what else is on the list? So you haven't used, my thought was, being an Eagle Scout, that some of that exploring and learning and training would have come into play, not just, you were a former FBI agent as well, but, some of that to me would come into play just investigating, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, you would be really surprised how many people, well, I'm surprised, don't know how to read a map at all. So, I remember when what's that?
How hard is it?
It's not that difficult, but the generation now grows up with GPS, and I can't imagine, when you would pull a map out and give them a compass and tell them to, even just find a street direction from the front of the phone book. They don't know how to do it. It's so...
Well, it's kind of sad. What's funny? Deegan, my boyfriend, he's the D part of DNS. I think it's kind of funny. He's been a football player, and he's a big guy. He's 6'3", 200-something pounds, and we get out to go someplace. And I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna head north on this street, and we're gonna go here. And he's like, huh? Which way's north? And I'm like, okay, you're a guy, first off. You should know north from south. And I give him just a fit about it. But, you're right. How many people, in today's society, we do have the GPS. How many people really can walk outside and know where their directions are when they walk out?
It's embarrassing. I remember in junior high, too, I took a geography class. And the teacher got up and said, okay, this is not to embarrass you, but how many of you can find the state where you live and then find Washington, D.C., and easy questions just about our country, not like, states.
Nothing difficult.
Oh, it's embarrassing. Americans are just so clueless, not about just their country, but the world. And I always feel embarrassed when I haven't heard about a certain country and I'm not up on world affairs. But you go do a survey on the street of the common person, and it's the things that don't come up every day, and they're able to fake their way through it, But when you pin them down and ask them a question like that, oh boy,
they can't answer. It's kind of like that common sense factor just kind of disappears. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of, what is it, the Miss America pageant, where they ask the girls a question and they just kind of fake their way through it, and you're sitting there scratching your head like, did she really just say that?
I love those.
I don't get it. I don't get it. But, I guess my dad raised a smart girl here, because I can get outside. I know where my directions are. I won't get lost unless you dump me in the woods without a compass. Even then I'll have to find my way. So tell us a little bit about, Fact or Fake, you got started to kind of do some debunking. From what I read, it was bringing new crossover type technology in. So what type of new equipment do you think that you've kind of brought out today, or brought out on the show, that is something that is kind of unique to the field, and is something that, maybe an investigator that's been around doing it for a while might try to take a look at? I mean, I know at one point we had like the thermal imaging cameras and that type of thing. Is there anything else that's kind of cool that you like to use?
Yeah, I mean, it's more so using technology that we already have, and I call it crossover technology. What I like was people who were using them in novel ways. So, try to think of an example here. It's very experimental, but on one episode I had a radar gun, and it's a little miniature, the world's smallest radar gun. And I was in the cemetery investigating this light, that came zooming by. Mm-hmm. And as we were doing an experiment, I was using it to measure an ATV that Austin was riding. But when he passed, even when he wasn't there, I was getting readouts on the radar gun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I was like, I wonder if this was something residual and something was like zooming by, this position. Like, radar works off of bouncing off a solid object, but who knows exactly what electromagnetic waves would do, or how it could change this. And So I don't know. I started experimenting with that. I like how people are using these trigger object detectors.
Yep.
There's a great guy with a Vortex. I think he calls it Vortex technology, but he creates these haunted object detectors. He calls them, and you can put things like in a metal plate, and if the spirit approaches, the idea is that it's a proximity sensor that's going to go off even before they pick the object up. Yeah, so there's little things like that. And I think the more that people bring these out and we try and use them and see what works, it's great. And we tried to introduce something new once per show. And sometimes we failed at doing that. But it's very important because the whole industry is very experimental.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Do you find yourself, with us, we find ourselves kind of leaning back on some old school techniques is what we like to call it. I mean, we do have a lot of technology on our team. We're a focus team for Paranologies, which is Jeremy Jones's company here based out of Texas. And so we have a lot of his equipment we go out and play with. But, we still like to go out and just use your basic five senses when we go out to try to pick up on some stuff. So I think, different teams approach it different ways. Do you see yourself at any point really using an old school method sometimes over technology?
Yeah, I think we get bogged down. I mean, I have so many meters and, cameras and everything strung around my neck, and I'm really often worried that I'm just going to leave something at a location because I do it. You're so worried about, okay, let's try this. No, let's try that.
And instead of all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just sitting there and trying to listen and to feel, we get bogged down in technology. And then the other thing is that I think people jump to the experimental stuff way too quickly. Because it gives them something to get excited about, so they'll take out the Frank's box type, or Spirit Box or something.
Stuff, yeah.
Or they'll have the app on their phone because they're lazy, and
you can't trust those things on your phone.
No, you gotta. The ghost radar, I try to tell people, I'm like, look, it does not have an EMF meter in there. It's working off of, I think, some capacitors to try and sense a proximity change, but it's a gimmick, and the same thing with some of the FM sweepers and stuff. I'm not saying there's nothing to this. I'm just saying if you were to do this statistically, and I hated stats in college, it was not my favorite class.
I don't think it's really anybody's.
If you break it apart and you're going to do this scientifically, you not only have to write down the times that the messages seem to make sense, you have to write down every time that it was just gibberish.
Right.
And then compare them to see if there's a statistical relationship. And so far, it seems to be something like 95% or more of the time it makes no sense at all. And all of a sudden it'll say something like, oh, it must mean this. And people start narrating for it and telling you the story of what happened. So I really don't like that. And I don't like that to be the first thing that comes out of somebody's tool bag, is to start with those. I like to do EVPs. I have a lot of success with really saying nothing and just letting the recorder go, or stuff like that instead of the experimental.
Well, and it seems like, to me, when we go out, we get more when we try not to do so much. I mean, we pretty much will take a look at the location we're going to and plan accordingly what we're going to bring and what we're going to do. But, for the most part, we get out of the car and we walk around, we've got our recorders on and we've got the cameras going, and, that's pretty much it. Now, if we have something else happen and we want to, measure the temperature or, see what we can find, then we'll go back and pull something out of the bag. But, people laugh at us because we we come walking up and we leave the equipment in the car at first. It's like, I want to get a sense for the place and get a feel for the place, because sometimes you get that interaction just stepping onto the property or just stepping into the location that your equipment may not pick up. The equipment is just that. It's equipment. It's man-made. Some of it's, made to measure certain things, and it's pretty good at it. But for the most part, I think walking in with us being human and having that human factor, I think you get more sensitivity out of a location than you would off of a meter or something else that's going to tell you what it's picking up on.
I do too. You know, as humans, we are also spiritual beings, you know, and if what we're finding are spirits, you know, if you can, without, you know, getting too far out into there, I don't think people need to, you know, be doing chants or
Right.
stuff like
No.
You know, but just
No
sitting there and absorbing and trying to feel what's around you, and being very objective and not trying to insert yourself into the situation. Yep. I do know of people who have psychic abilities. I'm open to people having gifts like that. But I also have seen a lot of people try too hard to kind of narrate. And you go into a location, and we do the public events all the time, and there's always one person, right? And you're in there, and you ask them, does anyone feel anything? And they start telling you, oh, their name is Susan, and they don't like you, and they, you know, we're a prisoner here, and this happened and that. And I'm like, okay, all right, you know, like, that's pretty foreign to me. I don't get impressions like that. I'm not saying it can't happen, right, but there are people who have answers to everything, and I just don't think that's how it works.
No, and I don't either. And you know, it's kind of funny because I believe people have their own gifts. I can sense some stuff, but not to the point that I'm going to walk in a room and tell you who else there. I can just sense that there's something there. But I think it's funny when you go out, you know, if you're on a public investigation or, you know, something where there's a lot of people and you've got 5 or 6 people just different names and different things going on, and they're kind of looking at each other, and you're just kind of like, okay, what do we really want to follow here? And, you know, then you'll have some people that'll say, okay, well, you just contaminated my investigation.
Yep, exactly.
So that's, I don't know, to each its own, of course. I mean, that's not my realm, and that's not what I do. I'm sure, I don't mean to offend anybody, but that's just, I'm not going to walk in a room and say, hey, there's Uncle Joe and Aunt Sue.
Well, then, yeah, and when the groups rotate, the next group, I say, well, how did it go? And they rotate to my position, you know, with the public, and they'll say, oh, it was great. We learned that his name was Joe, and they did this and that and that and that. And I'm like, and some people fully, you know, don't even question it. I'm like, well, I wish it were that easy.
Exactly.
You know, that you just got a couple words from your app, you know, your Spirit Box app, or from the Spirit Box or Ovilus or something, and all of a sudden you know the whole history of the place.
Yeah,
you know,
you're
so
just kind of going. Well, and it's funny because, like, Saturday night, I don't know if you've heard of the Baker Hotel out here in Mineral Wells. It's one of my very, very favorite places, and I would love to investigate it sometime, but I go out there and hang out with the Ghost Walk, and I met a homeowner out there who has an active house. And so we were sitting there, and I pulled out my Ovilus, and, you know, a lot of times I just pull it out just to see if anything's going to happen. And it starts saying stuff, and he's kind of looking at me, and I'm like, it's nothing, it's gibberish. If it were something that was going to come through, it would be very clear, so I just don't mind it, I'm just running it. Well, then I pull out my Hack Shack and start running it, and we're sitting there, and he's telling me some more about the house and the history and his experiences. And so I turned to him, and I said, well, let's just see if there's anybody here. And so I asked, can you tell me the owner's name? And sure as can be, plain as day, his name came across that box. And he looked at me all freaked out. And I said, now, that could have happened. It may not have. I want to ask it 2 more times. I asked 2 more times. I didn't get it again. So I kind of look at him, and he's like, so do you think that's something? And I'm like, I can't tell you. We'd have to come back and try it again. But my whole thing is, I try it 3 different times to see if we've got something there. And so he kind of sat there the whole night kind of looking at me while we're talking and looking around. I'm like, I hope I didn't freak you out. Like that one.
I have yet to have a good experience with it, you know, and I'm waiting. I have not, all the time I've done this, I have not had a convincing experience from Hack Shack or Spirit Box, anything.
Well, and see, when it happens to me, I kind of get excited, and then I'm like, okay, Sherry, ask it again. Don't get excited. Wait, it a couple of times, so I try not to get too excited about it. But Yeah, it was very interesting. So I want to ask you something kind of controversial here because this is kind of one of my soapboxes I get on.
Okay.
What's one of your thoughts on orbs?
Well, I always tell people, first of all, they have to kind of narrow down and define what phenomenon they're talking about, because orbs are used as a label for not just ghost investigating, but also ufology talks about them a lot, and they're talking usually about bigger things in the sky. They have different names, and then it's also in cryptozoology, and it's accompanying sometimes animal mutilations and a bunch of stuff. So when people say orb, well, usually they're asking me, what about the things that show up in my photograph? What do you think of those? And the answer is that I'm not an orb hater. The answer is most of those, yes, are going to be dust and moisture. However, I have visually seen an orb, if you want to call it that, and it was bright blue, 2 inches long, looked like a comet, and our meters were going crazy in this very small room, and it hovered right in front of four of us and then zipped through a wall. So if I were to have captured that on camera, I would say, okay, look, you captured an orb on camera, and that was a visual orb. So that's a first sign that something you have is significant. But I don't think you always have to see them. I think there probably are situations where you're really active location, you might have some of them show up on camera. The problem is that they look so similar to the dust and the moisture. And I tell people, always check your photos before you leave. Don't go home and go through all of them and then come back and tell me, oh, look what I found just now, because the conditions will never be the same.
Yep.
And you need to try and replicate it while you're there.
Well, and I think that's just good, a good practice to do. I always go through, when we get on site, I take my first run of photographs of everything when we get there, and I try to do it during the daytime so that when I'm taking pictures later on that night, I've got something to compare back to. Hey, was that, reflecting off of something, or did something move? Try to compare back to it. But, I'm one of those, my belief with the orbs is that there is a lot of dust in a lot of these pictures and a lot of moisture, and it's hard to really explain that to somebody and make them believe it, because they may have had an experience when that picture was taken. And so I always ask people, did you take a picture before and after that one? Can I see that? Let's look at what's around the room. Let's really take a look at this. And when you get to the point that you can't explain it, or it showed up in another picture, then that's when you can start looking at it to tell. But, my belief is orbs usually have their own light about them, and they don't have the spider web effect to them. And that's kind of what I look at when I look at them.
Huh. Yeah, that makes sense.
People try to say there's spaces in orbs, and I just kind of, really? Explain that to me.
Well, they are very strange. In ufology, there are these orb-like things that they filmed from space, astronauts. And the closer you zoom in on these things, they look kind of like Pac-Man, or little organic things that are kind of pulsating, and some of those same type of phenomena can be seen in videos taken in active ghost investigations. If they zoom in, you start to see sort of pulsating. So I don't know. The thing is so weird. So I think, though, that there probably is a much greater crossover and interrelatedness to all of this than most people like to realize. When they try to stay in their camps of, okay, I just do ghost hunting, or I just do Bigfoot hunting, and it has nothing to do with this or that.
It's funny you said Bigfoot hunting, because we're actually starting to get into that a little bit too. We've kind of kept our interest in the paranormal kind of open, and being a part of the National Paranormal Society, based out of here in Texas, we're doing our very first Bigfoot hunt coming up. So I told the guys, I'm like, you know what, ghost hunting doesn't bother me because I know I can't really like physically get hurt. But Bigfoot hunting, I don't know if I want to go and see a cougar or something out there in the wild. So y'all better be taking some shotguns or something. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm kind of interested to see kind of crossing over into some of the other areas as well. And that's been one good thing about being with NPS is you get to see the people that are into cryptozoology and the people that are into UFOs and into all the different stuff. And it's very interesting. So it kind of allows you to get out of your box and look at everything else. And like you said, you know, all of them could be related at some point. So that's kind of, it's just an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, I think so. And it's really sad, but I went Bigfoot hunting like last month. And I too brought a lot of guns. I was in the tent. The guy who took us was in a trailer. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not going to be drug out of my tent without kicking and screaming. So...
You will hear me, so be ready to fire a gun if you hear rustling. Now, I told the guys, I'm like, the only way I'm going, I don't do tents. I'm afraid the bear's going to come up or whatever. We can do a trailer or an RV, but you're not getting me in a tent. That's not going to happen. Yeah, that is not going to happen. Well, we have a few minutes here with you left, so I have 2 questions for you that's kind of going to be posed towards the audience.
Okay.
The very first one is, for somebody that's just starting out in the paranormal field, whether they're going to be investigating ghost or Bigfoot hunting or cryptozoology or whatever, what is one good piece of advice that you can give them stepping into the field brand new?
Well, I kind of, it's kind of cliche with me now, but I always tell people, don't believe everything you hear, but don't disbelieve something just because you haven't heard it before. You know, because people, we all come with our experiences and our beliefs and our biases, and we'll reject things that don't fit our little world, and we'll jump on things that do, and if we've had an experience, it seems to affect every vague experience after that. So it's not quite clear what happened. If you already had a really cool UFO experience, you might be more prone to categorize this new experience the same way. And so it's really important to stay objective and unbiased as you can. And then secondly, I would say focus on the people. If you're getting reports of stories, focus on the people who are telling you the stories. We get so eager, you know, to go to look at a video or hear a story or something like that we want to be believing, which is good,
mm-hmm.
but we a lot of times tend to dismiss the credibility of the person as being important, and we sometimes, like when we investigate videos, the video will only get you so far. In fact, right now I'm doing some commentary for the Huffington Post. They're doing a story on a video they wanted me to look at, and the video is only getting to get you so far, and it's so easy to hide behind that when you're posting things on YouTube, because they're not dealing with the actual person face to face.
Right.
You know, and that's where half of the story is. So even if they're not lying, your witnesses will perceive things differently. Everyone has a different kind of background they bring to it, so their reality might be different than what you would experience seeing the same thing.
That's true.
So don't discount the importance of the human factor in investigating.
Well, that's awesome. And you know what? That's something to really, you take that into any investigation, really. You know, when you're meeting with, you know, it may be a private client or even on a public investigation, that's definitely something to take into consideration, is the human factor of that. That's awesome. All right, and then my last question, you know, we always talk about a bucket list of places we want to go and investigate. And you've been to a couple of my bucket list places, so I'm a little jealous. So I wanted to find out, what is maybe 1 or 2 places that are on your bucket list that you haven't hit yet?
Well, I've heard a lot of good stuff coming out of this catfish plantation.
Oh, you need to come down to Catfish. I haven't been down there either. You know, Mike Roberts, I did not realize you were a client of my friend Mike's, so that's pretty embarrassing on my part. But Mike's been down there a lot, and I really want to go down there to Catfish.
Yeah, I hear a lot of good things about that. There's a couple of battleships that I'd like to investigate. We're doing one this next, when is it, February, I want to say? The USS Hornet.
Nice.
You know, because I had amazing activity in the USS North Carolina. So.
Yeah, and I heard that one's active too. I had a chance to go up there and investigate that one, and had some stuff fall through on the schedule. I know there's one in I think it's Corpus Christi. There's a battleship there that's got a lot of activity as well. That's close enough for me to drive and do. So there's a lot of stuff locally I want to hit. It's just a matter of having the time to do it. God, I wish I could get paid to do this, but some of those real jobs and support our hobby a little bit.
That's the way to do it. Then you get to write it off for taxes too when you buy your equipment.
You know what? Nice. Rub it in. You taking on any newbies maybe on the show?
Well, we will be, if we have any success. I got into producing. We got some shows out there that might be casting. The problem is you're not going to see hardly any new shows coming out that have, teams of investigators on any network. They're all saturated right now, and all the networks are afraid to do more shows like that at the moment. So
yeah, it's
going to be a while.
But you know what? I think it's cool that it's really taken off, and everybody has their own different shows they like to watch. Everybody has their own opinion of every show, but if you can take away one thing out of the show that's going to help you become a better investigator or give you another thought of thinking outside the box, I think that's great. Yeah,
for sure. I think that's what the perspective people should have, is that, hey, if it inspires you to do something else, first and foremost, they make these shows to be entertaining.
Right.
And you need to keep that in mind. But if you learn something from it and are able to apply a new technique, or even just become interested and take down some of your initial, that I think the stigma is what a lot of people have with ghost hunters, and now that's kind of been moved for a lot of people. It's done a lot of good.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. We're no longer Satan worshippers. Pretty sad. Well, I have kept you the full 30 minutes. I really appreciate you coming on. I know we've been playing it for a couple of months, but you have no idea how much I appreciate you coming on. That it's been just an awesome opportunity for me to talk to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. I'm going to keep up with you now. You're going to be hearing from me from time to time.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, take care, Ben. I really appreciate it.
All righty. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Ben. Bye.
Bye.
You guys, that was Ben Hansen. That was an awesome interview. I'm kind of thrilled. That's one of my favorite shows to watch, and to be able to talk to him is fantastic. I did see some of the questions in the chat room, but we only had 30 minutes for him tonight, so I didn't get to really ask a whole lot. But I will take notes of what you guys have asked, and I'll ask him, and we'll post that up on the DNS page, so you guys will be looking for that in the next couple of days. But right now, let's talk about some other fun stuff. We've kind of been offline the last month, doing some stuff. We've had some personal stuff going on. I'm trying to sell my house and move and all sorts of fun stuff. So I just kind of wanted to touch base with everybody. We're getting ready to start some fun stuff coming up that we're going to call crew time. With the cooler weather, we're going to start getting out more and doing more investigations. A couple of weeks ago, we tried to go out and do a live location at a local cemetery in my hometown of Plano, and the signal didn't allow us to pick up very much to show you guys that investigation. I wish I had some footage to show you guys. It was so quiet and dead that night that to go and read the accounts that people have had with it being active kind of made me question it. So we may try to go back out there during a full moon and see if we get something different, and maybe take some of our friends out there with us and see if maybe more people, it was just Deegan and I, so maybe more people, we might get something. So you'll see us doing a lot more of that. I spent some time in Mineral Wells over the weekend. I'm doing the ghost hunt again and learning some more stories, and did meet with an individual homeowner out there who has activity in the house. So we're going to try to get in there and bring you some of that information as well, and we'll share with you what that location is in case you're here locally and you want to check that out, we can give you some more information on that as well. So, Eric, do you have the family business trailer ready to go?
Have I ever let you down, Sherry?
Never, never, never. I just didn't know if you were ready or not.
Which
so
one?
What I want to do now, we were talking about Mike Roberts. Mike Roberts is coming out with a pilot called Family Business. It's kind of a cool little show he's working on, and Ben, his big project right now that he's focusing on. And Mike also has Demented Entertainment. Ben is one of his clients, along with some other people. So I wanted to go ahead and give Mike some support. I want you guys to see this video that Mike put together about family business. It kind of talks about the pilot itself. And then if you guys can help pledge, DNS did their part today, if you guys can help pledge.
Lost your sound, Sherry.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, when you make a Kickstarter, like, they want you to come on and talk about the project and a little bit about what it's going to be about. And with this project, I thought it would be a little bit on the special side, just for the fact that it's kind of like the movie Argo, where we're actually pretending to film one thing and it's for a completely different cause. Kind of like, you know, where, oh, we're going to shoot this big television show, and any of the money that we raise for it is actually being used to stop Michael Bay from making the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film. No, that's not right. Family Business is kind of a passion project. It's a neat idea. It's going to be geared towards the fans of shows like Arrested Development, The Sopranos. It's got a unique storyline with a bunch of rich and interesting characters. The best thing about it is, if we can take it long term, past this pilot, it's definitely going to create a lot of new jobs for people. There's an abundance of roles to be had in future episodes. We don't really want to give away too much of the plot line. The pilot plot line has such a dramatic twist to it, and a couple of hidden options that we just don't want to reveal too soon. What I can tell you about the project is it's being shot great. We're shooting it in full 1080, 24p, high definition. We have multiple camera setups. We've got some amazing locations. We've got some great actors, and we've been auditioning a lot of great potential new talent. Probably one of the best things for me about this project is the fact that it can go so many ways. The story with this is that there's a guy who moved away from home. He started his own business working in advertising and marketing, and business started to dry up. And when it did, he basically has no choice but to go back home. He's coming back home to an estranged relationship that he had with his father. And what makes that the most interesting is going to be the tension that they have. We're not going to tell you why that tension is there just yet. That's something that we hope by the second and third episode will be made abundantly clear. The family itself needs his help for his advertising and marketing expertise and his clean look, because they have a few secrets that they don't want getting out there. And they are a family that used to live in a bigger town that have now moved to a very small rural town, and they've started their own business, albeit small, kind of mom and pops, keeping a very low profile. And again, something that you'll have to see from the episodes is how this all plays out, because everything is relevant to the son coming home. He's going to run into ex-girlfriends and people that he used to hang out with and struggle with trying to help the family business while also trying to repair the relationship with his father. It's a very dark comedy. Again, it is comedy, and it's dark. It's dark comedy. It's literally taking some of the best elements that you've seen in your favorite shows, my favorite shows, and putting them all into one. And it's going to be portrayed by an excellent cast of characters. We're asking that anybody viewing this video or watching the promo clip that we shot earlier today, which was just fun and kind of last minute on the spot, on the fly, that you guys take the time. We can do a minimum pledge of $1. Just $1 will help go a long way. It might not sound like it, but when you're doing crowdfunding on Kickstarter, if 500 people are putting in $1, it all starts to add up. If you can do more, great, do more. We have some fantastic perks that range from getting credits on IMDb, signed cast photos, all the way up to your own walk-on role onto the show. You can walk onto the show, hotel and transportation not included, but you can walk right onto the show and walk into a speaking role. That's going to give you IMDb credits on that as well as the episode credits. And it absolutely, it's already on IMDb, so you'll just be getting added. The distribution properties of this, the show is being distributed by a company called ViaWay. ViaWay is for smart devices, tablets, iPhones, iPads, Android, and it's coming pre-installed on all of the new televisions in 2014, kind of like Netflix and Hulu. And this show is going to be one of the first original programming shows that's available through ViaWay. And it's basically built right in. You don't have to download anything. You can just go there. You can select family business and watch the show. And with your help, hopefully we'll reach our goal, and we'll continue to make this show. And if we actually go over the goal, we're looking forward to putting it towards better things each episode. We'd love to go over the goal, but meeting it is key. If we do go over, we'll definitely have improved things with the cast and the crew and some of the things that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. But we set a very small, modest goal because we wanted to meet it. We wanted to get it up and running. And, I think you guys are going to love it. So please contribute to our campaign. Even if you can't do just $1 or $5, then spread the word. Post it on your Facebook pages, post it on Twitter. You never know which one of your friends might do something, and every little bit helps. And word of mouth goes a long way. And we're counting on you guys for this, and we're going to bring you some quality entertainment in return. So again, please help out our Kickstarter, and hopefully by January 6th, you will be seeing the first episode of Family Business. Okay, so here's the thing. Like, when you make a Kickstarter, like, they want you to come on and talk about the project and a little bit about what it's going to be about.
I was gonna hit the like button, I swear, and then my computer, it froze up, and then I was gonna share it after I liked it, and I was gonna donate, but my check was late, and my dog needed neutered, and I just didn't have the money. I swear I was gonna do it. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
So how much do you find?
$1.37.
Well, that's the dollar minimum, right? So are you guys gonna let me go now? Who's gonna untie me? Hey guys. No.